Well, they certainly have come a long way since 1920, and I'm talking about Alvey reels. Lightweight, durable, and of course reliable. G'day, my name's Paul Burt, and this is the Alvey DVD. Now, over the next hour or so, I'll be showcasing some of Alvey's fine products, where we'll use them in the estuaries, along the beaches, and then going out to the deep blue sea, where some of the catches taken even caught us by surprise. We'll also get down to the nitty-gritty of knot tying, so the fish won't slip away, showing you how to properly cast your Alvey, and then we'll even go and collect some bait. It's all coming up on this information DVD produced by Alvey. Sit back and let's go fishing with Alvey reels. Well, they certainly have come a long way since 1920, and I'm talking about Alvey reels. Lightweight, durable, and of course reliable. G'day, my name's Paul Burt, and this is the Alvey DVD. Now, over the next hour or so, I'll be showcasing some of Alvey's fine products, where we'll use them in the estuaries, along the beaches, and then going out to the deep blue sea, where some of the catches taken even caught us by surprise. We'll also get down to the nitty-gritty of knot tying, so the fish won't slip away, showing you how to properly cast your Alvey, and then we'll even go and collect some bait. It's all coming up on this information DVD produced by Alvey. Sit back and let's go fishing with Alvey reels. Now you've got your nice new Alvey, before we can go fishing, of course there are a few important things we have to know. For example, how to put line on the spool, how to tie some knots up, and of course a little bit about baits and rigs. But this next segment is about line spooling. I'm going to teach you some important keynotes about line maintenance as well. Now the spool that I've got here is Alvey fishing line. It's 12 pounds by 500 metres. Also Alvey have put it on their reel spool as well, just down the bottom here. In fact, most Alvey products will either have it on the spool or on the reel box. You can check it out for yourself. Now what I have to do here is put the line into a bucket of water. I do that to stop any friction. Friction is when the line burns with heat. And of course it can burn my fingers when I'm applying even pressure whilst winding the line onto the spool. If I don't, it'll burn my fingers, burn the line, friction will occur, and when you hook onto a big fish, that's the first thing that'll break. So into a bucket of water it goes. The line then goes through the last runner of the rod, and we take it down to the spool. Now the knot that I'm going to tie on is a hangman's noose. You probably won't know how to do that. We'll be teaching you that next. I'll just quickly tie it. So grab the loop, put it around the spool, pull him tight, slide it down, and now we're ready to wind the line on. What I tend to do is basically hold the line with my thumb and index finger nice and tight. From here, I can wind with even pressure, not too tight but not too loose, and I can guide the line across the spool as I'm winding. If you don't, it'll bunch up, and when you go to cast, you'll get not one strand but maybe 3 strands. You don't want that to happen when the fish are biting well. We speed up, nice and tight in between the thumb and the index finger, and guiding it from left to right all the way through. You know, if you're a keen fisherman, you're out there just about every day, it's important that you change the line quite regularly, maybe every couple of months. And if you're an amateur fisherman, you get out there once every weekend or maybe once a month, you should change your line maybe once a year or so. And it's important to keep your reel away from direct sunlight. Ultraviolet rays aren't good. In fact, it'll break the line down. Keep it in a shaded room. Alveys are fantastic when you're fishing. Of course, you can wet them, dunk them in the surf. If you get sand behind the spool, dump them in the water, give them a turn like I am now, and everything comes out. I can guarantee you can't do that with any other reel. When you are winding the line on the Alvey, it's important that you work from the outside to the centre of the reel, towards the spool basically. This will take a little while. We've got 500 metres to go. So stick around. And I think that's just about it. Now when you are winding your Alvey line on, it's important that you keep about 5 millimetres from the back of the spool down to the line, and have the line on that angle running towards the front of the spool, not away from the spool. That way when you cast, it'll all come off nice and evenly, one strand at a time. Just keep winding, keeping that even pressure applied at all times, and there we have it. 500 metres of 12-pound Alvey line on the 6-inch direct spool, ready to do the knots and the rigs. They're coming up next, so don't go away. Well, it's time for knot tying. You're probably wondering how I tied that hangman's noose onto the Alvey spool before, but now I'm about to show you. The hangman's noose is commonly known as a uni knot. And another knot commonly used around the Australian waterways is the locked half blood knot. They're 2 knots that won't let you down, just like the Alvey products. This is how we tie them. First one will be the uni knot. I've got with me some nice thick yellow line and a fairly big hook. It's a lot easier when I use these two to tie, and I urge you to go out and actually get yourself a big hook and some nice thick line as well, because it makes it a lot easier when you're practicing. When the line goes through the eye of the hook, it's known as the tag end. That's this part here. We bring the tag end up along the main line. Give yourself plenty of tag end to work with. Drop it down and form a loop, like so, and grab the loop with the main line, just like that. The tag end then wraps around both lines at the top of the loop about 6 times. Once, twice, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So if you're using braided lines or non-stretch fishing line, You probably want to do it about 10 times. From there, we pull the tag end, not too tight, but just so it forms the hangman's noose. From there, we have to lubricate it. Lubrication will stop any friction or burning of the line. And believe me, you don't want that to happen. When you damage the line, that's the first thing that breaks when you hook onto that big fish. From there, we grab the main line, slowly pull it back, and you'll see that knot working its way down towards the eye of the hook. Just like that. Pull it tight, but to lock it, we just pull the tag end like so. Pull it down tight, and there we have a beautifully presented uni knot. Before you go fishing though, cut off the excess tag end. Just like that. Beautiful. Now the next one is the locked half blood knot. Another big hook and a big bit of yellow thick line through the eye, the tag end, this is it now. We pull it up, and what I do is I hang it like so. I then twist the hook around about 6 times, and down towards the eye of the hook, a loop has been formed. Just down there. Now I want the tag end to go through that particular loop. Just like that. And now another loop is formed here. The tag end must go through that. That's what locks the blood knot. Back through until we come to that stage. And wet it. Feed it down until it all goes down onto the eye of the hook. Pull it tight, grab the tag end, give it another pull, and trim it up. Once you do that, you're pretty much ready to go fishing. Get out there, practice those 2 knots, because like I said, they won't let you down, just like your Alvey reels won't let you down. Up next, baits and rigs. When you do go fishing, there's lots of different kinds of rigs to use, and you just have to change the rig to suit the style of fishing. For example, you don't want to go out into the ocean and use a big rig and then take that rig back into the estuaries and try and catch a smaller fish. It just won't work. And I've got a few rigs here to go through with you, but I'm going to let you in on a small secret, and that's the use of swivels. You see, a lot of people get out there and use a big giant swivel and they'll think, oh, it's going to eliminate all the line twists. Well, it won't. The big swivel just won't twist. So what you have to use is the smallest possible swivel to suit the breaking strain of line class that you're using. And it's easy. Just look at the packet on the swivels there and you'll find the breaking strain written there. You do that, it'll eliminate all the line twists, and that's perfect for the Alvey. Well, I've got the rigs here. Remember, you can press pause on the remote to study that rig closer. Let's get into it. This is the brim rig. You'll find brim usually inhabit rough, snaggy areas, and this rig is suitable for that application. Now, the business end of the rig, where the hook is, there's a few different sizes you can use. You can start at a number 1 or a 2, and you can go up to as big as a 1/0 or a 2/0, depending on the size of the brim that you initially are targeting. Now, it's best to have the sinker running right down to the hook, as you can see here. The trace should be around 4 kilos, although you can go a touch heavier if you wish, especially when you are fishing around deep, snaggy areas. And the trace should be between 60 and 120 centimetres long. Now, the swivel size should be around, well, a size 12 is sufficient, depending on the different quality of swivels you're going. Whether it's a brass barrel or a black rolling swivel, you'll find different sizes have different breaking strains. And as I said before, just check the breaking strain on the swivel packet as you go to buy it. And of course, from there we tie it straight to our main line, which is normally around 4 to 6 kilograms. There you have it, that's the brim rig. This is the whiting rig. Now, whiting like to look around shallow, sandy areas where the tide's not running so fast, and this particular rig really does it justice. Now, again, we'll start down around the hook. We can use a long shank hook depending on the bait that you're using, whether it's a yabby or a worm. A long shank hook is sufficient. The hook size should be around a number 4 to a number 6. You can go a little bit bigger, say a 2 or 3, again depending on the size of the fish that you are targeting. Just above the hook you have a red plastic tube. It's an exciter. The whiting absolutely love it. And make it about 4 centimetres long. The tray should be around 3 to 4 kilos in breaking strain, and around 60 centimetres or so is more than enough. From there we can go up to a ring, or in this case we're using a swivel. From there a small ball sinker is used, and another 30 centimetre trace line going up to the next swivel. The main line we're using is around 3 to 4 kilograms. You'll find when you are using the bait on the hooks, it's best to insert the hook right into the bait. Try and hide the hook, but of course expose the point. You do that, when he bites it, I'm sure you'll have a better chance of hooking him up. There you have it, that's the whiting rig. Now this is the tailor rig. It's an important rig for most beach fishermen. You'll find tailor fishing is done as far north as Fraser Island, generally from around July, August, September and October, all the way down to Victoria. And this rig is an important one, so watch it closely. And remember, you can press pause. The hooks we're using in this particular case, we're using 4 of them. And the size varies from a 3/0 up to a 5/0, depending on the size of the fish that you're targeting. Of course, you can go a little bit bigger, and you can go much smaller. Now we're using a short trace of around 10 kilograms in breaking strain. The trace is about 23 centimetres long, going up to our swivel. Now again, match the swivel, the smallest possible swivel to suit the breaking strain of the line. So probably around a size 10 on a brass barrel would be more than enough. Black crane swivels, you might want to just check that breaking strain on the packet when you go to buy them. The sinker is then added to another piece of trace line that runs up to another swivel. And the ball sinker size should vary to suit the sweep in that particular gutter that you're fishing. You can drop it down to a small number 3 and take it right up to a number 8 ball sinker. And that trace line is generally around 60 centimetres or more. From there we do another blood knot, and that joins straight through to our main line, which is normally around 7 or 8 kilograms. There you have it, that's the tailor rig. Now when you go spinning, Alvey have the reel for you. It's called the Alvey Rapid Retrieve, and they've also got the geared reel, extremely high speed. But there's also a rig to use to stop all that twisting occurring, because that lure, as it comes in at a fair rate of knots, back into the beach or to the boat, it is going to spin. And this is the rig to use. Of course you can see the lure here, and at the top we've got the split ring. And adjoining the split ring we have a swivel. Now that swivel, again, should suit the line class or the trace line that we're using. You can use monofilament or fishing line, or you could even use wire trace of around 10 kilograms. The trace should be around a foot or 30 centimetres long, going up to another swivel, again suiting that 10 kilogram breaking strain. Just check that swivel packet again. The main line we're using, well, it varies on the size of the fish that you intend on targeting, but most anglers you'll find will use around 7 kilograms. There you have it. That's the rig for using a spinner. Now this is the bottom fishing rig, or what we call the paternoster rig. It's a great rig for when you're fishing extremely deep reefs, out in the blue ocean, or even shallow reef fishing as well. Down the end we have an extremely large snapper sinker of around half a kilo. That should vary to suit the current or the depth that you are fishing in. From there you have around 13 to 20 kilogram line going up to a 3-way swivel that you've tied on. You'll find that's called a breakaway. So if you hook onto the bottom, you'll lose the sinker, not the whole rig. Generally, the rig's trace line will be much heavier than the breakaway that you're using down on the sinker. Now the trace should be around 15 to 25 centimetres long. And the hook size should vary again, the size of the fish that you intend on targeting. Most anglers use anywhere from a 2/0 to a 6/0 octopus or suicide hook. From there we have around a 23 to 30 centimetre trace going up to the next 3-way swivel that you've tied on. And do another similar rig. a little bit of line coming off, going to another 2/0 to 6/0 hook. From there we have another foot or 30 centimeters going up to the top of the rig where the last swivel is tied on. And I'm sure you know the size of the swivels now to suit the line class which you intend on using. From there you tie your main line to it, bait it up, and you're ready to drop it down to the depths. And the best bait to use has to be something hardy. Try squid, pilchards, or some sort of fish flesh. There you have it, the paternoster or the bottom rig. Now you've wound the line on, I just want to run through a few of the components that are generally on all Alvey reels. The first one being the turntable at the top. It's quite simple really. We press this lever in here and that allows us to turn the reel like so. That's when you can cast. It's an important feature. Down the bottom there's a ratchet system. You basically press a button in, and when the reel winds backward like so, you can hear it. And that's a great mechanism for when you're fishing. You set the line out, you're further up the beach or back at camp or wherever, and the fish takes the bait, you can actually hear it go off. The reel will scream backwards. It's quite loud, but believe me, it's a necessity in that particular situation. The line is also wound on nice and evenly, and of course it's tight. That'll get rid of all complications whilst you're fishing. If you do it that way, you won't have any problems. Alvey have also got these large knobs. That's great when you want to get that extra grip when you're utilising that powerful 1-to-1 ratio. Now I just want to show you the open runner. Basically the line can go through it like so. It comes off the first runner, through the open runner and straight onto your finger. It also applies that little bit more pressure that's required when the line has to go onto the reel. Now when we're about to cast, I like to keep my sinker or the weight about 2 feet from the rod tip. That's more than enough. From here, we take our left hand, we come under the reel by sweeping just below it and grabbing the line with our 4 fingers. We then slide our hand back to the reel and up towards that turntable. And that's where your thumb, like that, can reach it. Push the turntable in and the reel can then turn with the rest of your fingers, like so. Now, we want to take that line away from the index finger and convert it through to the thumb. So I push the thumb around, my hand then comes behind the reel, cradles the reel as well as the rod butt. Now with my right hand, depending where I place it on the rod blank depends on how far I want to cast. If it's down here, it's perfect for a lob cast. I can just go over my shoulder and basically flick it out. That's a great way to cast flesh baits or yabbies. Just want to get it out a little bit, no distance required. But if I want to get a lure or a pilchard way out into the school of tailor, I'll slide my hand right up far and I'll even take a step into it like so and flick it out. Now when you have to release the line, that's quite important that you do it between your ear and 40